In this video, I'm going to sharpen a Sebenza on the Edge Pro from start to finish. And it's going to be kind of a long video, but it's really specifically for a couple people. Tyler and Paul are both getting, trying to get professional grade results on their Edge Pro. And then these guys are in the guild. So really this video is for you guys, but I thought it'd be good to share because one thing I remember when I was getting started with sharpening was that when I watched the videos, a lot of times the parts that I really wanted were edited out, and it was frustrating for me, and I remember that. So here's a whole video. So it's going to be a little bit long, but it's also going to be awesome, and it's a Sebenza, which is awesome, and it comes out really cool. First, a quick disclaimer is that I did prep this on the belt, and the way that went down was I had intentions. I was going to do the whole thing on the Edge Pro, and then I was looking at it, and I was like, I don't know. So it's just the way I am, man. When I touched it to the belt, I was like, oh man, like this actually needs some work. So I did prep it on the belt before bringing it over to the Edge Pro, and I'm glad I did. I'm sorry I didn't record that. That's my bad. That also sort of came up on the call though too, because I wonder if a lot of guys like the hand sharpeners, or even like on their websites or on their things, like John mentioned one picture of a hand sharpener and like there's a Sharpie mark for tip restoration in a side conversation. The guy was like, yeah, I have some other tools. And I just wonder if a lot of like the people that put themselves out and market that hand sharpening thing actually do a little bit of mechanized work on a belt. I cut my teeth doing all the work on the Edge Pro. I know what it's like. It's a bear. That's why I keep saying that 1x30 has paid for itself more than any tool in my shop, just in saved time on prepping and repairing blades. So forgive me, I didn't capture that in the video, but so it goes. Also, like, just use caution. Like, this Sebenza is probably a $500 knife-ish, something in that range. And like, I'm okay putting that on a belt. I've put a lot of knives on a belt. I'm not saying that maybe that's the best move for everybody, and maybe some people it is a better move to grind it out and put the time in on the Edge Pro, just to make sure we don't ruin it. The last thing is, one thing that I've been working on the Edge Pro, this might not be the last thing, is that the finishing. I love the 6000 grit finishing tape, the polishing tape from Edge Pro. I love it. I call it the Facebook finish. I don't know how to get a better finish than that. But I've noticed when I go through the whole progression, a couple times I've done a cut test around I use a diamond matrix stones up there. I have a 4000 grit diamond matrix stone and a slice of nice, and I run the tape on it and I get it off, and it's not as buttery. Like it doesn't cut as nice. So I've been thinking, like, what can I do like to get that Facebook finish, that mirror polish finish, but also deliver like unbeatable cutting quality. And I was thinking, like, I got to try a Strop. So I reached out to Mark at Chef Knives to Go. I was like, yo, if I'm going to buy one Strop, what should I get? And he said, I would do the kangaroo hide with a 0.5 micron CBN emulsion. And I did, and I got it, and they're here. And I waited too long to get one of these. I'm doing a giveaway on this video, and I'm going to use this Strop and this emulsion to finish this blade, and it comes out awesome. And if you would like to win a Strop and the emulsion, you can enter in the description below. And right before next week's Thursday Night Grind, I'm going to draw a winner, and then after that, I'm going to buy one from Chef Knives to Go and mail it out to you. So I'm only going to ship it to the United States. Sorry to all my international friends. I hope you forgive me. But you're still welcome to enter. But if you ask me to ship it internationally, you can either absorb the international shipping cost or take a pass on it. But anyway, if you would like to get entered to win a kangaroo hide Strop with 0.5 micron CBN emulsion, look in the description below. And okay, that's it. So I hope you enjoy it, and I hope you learned something. And if you have any questions, make sure you let me know. And that's it. Enjoy. I should be careful to pretend that I know a lot about these, but this is the first one I've held, and I've been excited to get one in the shop. First, just to be humbled by somebody trusting me with this knife, but also because I've heard about the legendary bank vault action and the lockup and everything, and it doesn't disappoint. It's really high class. My understanding is that this Sebenza is the Nkosi with Insigno blade, which actually I really like that style, and it is in CPM S35 VN, if I'm not mistaken. I did clean the blade. I was happy also to see that the owner of this knife probably retails on the order of $500, just, you know, plus or minus a bunch of factors. But anyway, like, they don't give them away. And I was excited to see some indications on the blade that the owner uses this knife, which is it's not just a collector's item, based on what I could tell. So I cleaned it up in the sink, and I will say that the green scrubby that I used was even a bit more aggressive than I would have liked in hindsight. So next time I will go even lighter. But still, I don't want to scratch it up any more than I have to, so now I'm doing the tape trick over the blade using that blue tape from the USPS. Put it up and then a little high of the edge, and then I trim the tape right around the whole cutting edge so that it matches the profile. Pull the tape off, slide it down fraction of an inch, maybe like a 1/16 or so. So just the blade, you know, bevel is not covered. Maybe a little bit more, just a little bit past the bevel, and then trimming around the thumb stud here, using that nice open L slicey number 5 to trim the tape here. It's also not bad practice to fold it over and protect the spine as well. In this case, I did not, for no good reason. There it is, though. Nice blade profile, right? So here we are at the Edge Pro. I'm going to replace this blue tape that I put on the bed of the knife. The purpose of the blue tape is to keep the blade from getting scratched. So like, you could make the case that I don't need it here, but I maybe out of habit or no other reason, I do like having some tape here, and in this case I feel like putting some fresh tape on. And it just takes a second. So zinc, fold it over, good to go. I have the slide guide mounted on my Edge Pro, and I really like this feature, this add-on. And in this case, we're going to see how awesome it is, and we're going to see how awesome the magnet is. And just a reminder, if you're coming in late, I did prep this knife on a belt. I already have a burr up, so there's that. All right, so I got the thumb stud pushing in against the bed, supporting on one side, bringing up the center support to keep the whole edge right around the face of the Edge Pro. Now here's the thing, check out. That thumb stud doesn't protrude on this side, so if I really want to be perfect, I need to only bring the knife in as far as the thumb stud on the other side. So I don't have that same, you know, firm setting of position, only on one side. The other thing to note here is that this blade has a flat spot, but then it's ground. See that? So here's a couple, flat spot there, and then the blade is ground. So I can't grab that flat spot, which means that the angle that I'm using on the post of the Edge Pro won't really reflect the angle of the bevel, since the blade is, and it drops down a little bit. I need to go up on the post to get that level. But I've been doing this long enough so that I know I put about a 20-degree bevel on it from the belt. So I'm going to mark it, and I'm going to raise my post up a little bit until I'm just about, certainly at the edge, but removing most of the Sharpie that I put on there, and that's how I'm going to finalize that angle. If you wanted to get really specific and put a specific angle, you could hold it on the flat spot of the blade and grind your bevel, and then mark it with Sharpie lay the blade so that it lays naturally on the bed, and then adjust the post so that you remove the Sharpie. Or you could get creative with some angle guides. In this case, I didn't feel that that was necessary. So I'm just doing the fine tuning of the stone arm to make sure that I like my angle. I didn't Sharpie this side, but that's all right. I'm still going to just see where that angle is and make sure that I'm happy. Notice that I use the stone dry. I found that if I come to the knife with a wet stone, that it will generally just kind of wash the Sharpie away, because I don't really give the Sharpie much time to dry. So I do dry the stone before doing the Sharpie trick. Here I am setting the shaft collar, and you'll notice too what I did is I brought the shaft collar up to where I wanted it to be, and then I still took the stone out, loosened the screw holding the stone arm to the post, and then reset, set the stone on the shaft collar and reset it. And I found that there can be just minor differences in setting that distance with the stone arm by setting that distance with the shaft collar. All right, forgive the shot at my head here, but here I am. Now I'm just cutting the bevels to make sure that they are flat and consistent along the whole length of the knife. And putting up a burr is not an issue, but getting the bevel so that it is consistent and flat along the whole length. There's a little bit of cutting, so I'm going to clean my stone up a little bit. It is good practice to rotate the stones from time to time, but I think you'll see I'm doing a pretty decent job of using the whole stone length in my grinding. Paying particular attention at the tip. I don't want to roll that over. You need to get the stone off of the tip to about the midpoint, but you still want to hold the stone in the right, like you don't want to roll the stone over the tip. So if you look at the wear on your stone, you'll see that most of the wear is happening right in the center, right? And so for that reason, you can use a little bit of control, like just a little bit of wrist pressure to try to apply the cutting action to the edge of the stone. But even so, you probably still need to bring the stone off of the tip. Just be careful not to roll it. Just verifying the burr here down the whole length of the blade. And I'm inspecting it closely. And I think what I'm seeing here is that while I'm putting up a burr satisfactorily along the whole length of the knife, there is a section closer to the heel where the bevel is not perfectly flat, and I'm not grinding the whole bevel. Like I'm grinding at the edge, but I'm not getting a real consistent bevel. I'm going to try here to get it with the 220 stone, and I'm going to, I remember here, I'm going to save myself a little time by putting the 120 stone in just to grind that bevel so that it's the same along the whole length. Another thing we're going to have to watch out for here is that when you're grinding towards the heel, it is easy to touch the stone to the handle of the knife, and when you do that, you're going to leave a little mark in it. So you need to pay as much attention at the heel as you do at the tip. Another thing that I really love about this knife is that where the ricasso is, or the bolster area, the heel there, the blade design is such that no choil is necessary, and there's not a transition to the thickness of the blade where the edge ends. I really, really like that. I think that's just a fantastic feature. Here we are coming to the 120 stone. Notice the setting on the stone arm post of the shaft collar. And I'm gonna end up working the whole blade a little bit, but really the work just needs to be done right down there. There's one little spot where the bevel is not consistent. So, and I can only tell by looking at it close by eye, so you have to trust me on it. But I'm just going to be working primarily right there. Notice too how as I was saying, like you can put a little bit of twist on the stone, just a little bit. Like don't rock it so that the stone comes up and you're only grinding on the corner of the stone. But when you're down in this section, remember I was saying, like, if you're grinding middle of the stone, meaning like little middle lengthwise and middle crosswise, then to get the grinding action at the very heel of that knife, you're gonna need to, like in the tip, you can run the stone off the tip a little bit and still get the center of stone cutting at the tip. But right down here, you're gonna have to apply just a small amount of wrist pressure to grind on that side of the stone. And that's probably all it took to grind the whole bevel to be consistent. Yeah, I'm pointing right there. That's where it's easy, real easy to touch the handle with the stone, and then you leave your mark on the handle, and that's no good. So it's just, you need to pay real close attention down there, just as you need to pay real close attention at the tip. Couple more passes just to clean up that. But like, this is where, like, this is the hard work, right? Like once you get the blade and the edge all set, the rest of it's just working up in grit. But I think we're good there. Coming back to the 220 stone now, setting it. One person asked why I use the Edge Pro, and that person was saying that they get, way faster just grabbing a bench stone or something. And I respect the people that can hand sharpen on a wet stone, on a bench stone. The reason I use the Edge Pro is that I cannot match this level of precision by hand as I'm going through different stone grits. Like, I can pay such close attention at the tip and the heel. I'm going back to the exact same angle every time I move the knife and every time I change the grit of stone. So, yeah, like if you're the type, and like there's one dude, Neeves Knives, you can look him up on YouTube. That dude can hand sharpen like a champ. I just don't have that skill set, and it might be, I don't know, like I'm not sure I'm too inspired to learn it because I just get such great results on the Edge Pro, and I've come to kind of enjoy it. So now I'm just doing another inspection here, making sure the bevels all look good, right? Like once it's set up, like the 220 puts up a quick burr. Coming to the 400 stone, for a while I was leaving this stone out, but I was realizing that the scratches left by the 220 stone were deep enough for me to not get out on the 600. So I've decided to bring the 400 back into this grit progression to really try to get all of these deeper scratches from the 220 grit stone out before progressing up into the finer stones. So for kitchen knives, I'm less picky about it, but since I'm going for a mirror finish on this knife, I think that it is worth using the 400 stone. Notice here too, I'm doing a nice job of keeping that I'm just lining up the edge of that thumb stud with my slide guide or the edge of the Edge Pro table, because I don't have that same stop that I have on the other side. Right there, I can push the thumb stud, I did it for you, push the thumb stud right into the Edge Pro, and like I go to the exact same place. All right, so notice what I did there. Now I'm up to about 400, maybe sometimes around the 600 grit. I start doing this, I start cutting the burr off. So I did both sides on the 400. I came back to the side that I started on and did a real light push stroke, just to, like, I mean, not just the weight of the stone, just to push the burr off. And now I'm coming up to the 600 grit. It's still gonna put up a little burr. It gets to the point now where when you're at this fine of grit, it's harder for me anyway to feel the burr that I put up. Paying good attention at the tip here. But you still are putting up a burr. Like that's, once it's past the feel and the eye level, like it's closer down to the microscopic level that you're putting up a burr, but it is happening. I'm not sure if I'm going to do it with the 600 grit too, but we'll look for it as well, where I work the first side, work the other side. All right, let's talk about scratch pattern a little bit, right? Like I'm trying to do all the different strokes push, pull, and in both directions so that I kind of get like a cross-hatched pattern. There we go, and then I'm just going to cut that burr off and move up in stone. Some people like to, as they move through grit, they would, like, let's say I would cut like a particular stroke with one grit, and then I'd have all of the lines from that scratch pattern in a particular orientation. And then when I go to my next grit, I would choose a different stroke so that I could tell when all of the scratches from the previous grit were done. I think that's pretty high class. I'm not doing it, but I think it's a nice idea. And now we're at the point where if I missed anything, if any work needs to happen, like, it'd be better to go back than to keep going forward. So what I was just doing before I put this 1100 stone in was just inspecting the blade again, making sure I'm getting the whole flat of it, that the stone is getting all the way across the whole bevel. And that's another thing that now I'm using a wide variety of stones here, right? And they're all different thicknesses, they're all different ages. I think that 400 was pretty much brand new, so it's pretty thick. 600 is probably getting close to worn out, so it's relatively thin. So without having that shaft collar, the difference in stone thickness is going to change the angle enough so that I won't get the whole bevel. So from my perspective and the way I sharpen, that shaft collar is an essential piece to get the professional quality results that I need. I do like to clean the bed from time to time. It's called swarf, the combination of stone and blade, like metal residue that builds up from the sharpening process. And believe I was at the 1100, so now I'm at the 2300 diamond matrix stones. I do like the diamond matrix stones. They are kind of pricey, but they last for a long time and they deliver nice results. They do get dirty a bit, and I probably clean them more than some other people. I really like having my stones do the work, right? The time spent cleaning them is time saved in the sharpening process. And here's a little cut stroke, real light. Just take that burr off, real careful at the tip. Now we're coming up to the 4000 grit stone. Once you get, like, the Edge Pro can be relatively time consuming to some other processes, but I'm rolling through, like, that process to swap grits was probably faster than swapping a belt on any, I don't know, I'm like pretty close anyway, right? Like it's certainly a comparable time spent for moving up in grit. Careful at the heel there. Real careful at the tip. I kind of like the pull strokes at the tip. I see I'm doing some push, some pull, but cut that little burr off, the microscopic burr now that we're putting up with that 4000 grit. All right, and then since I'm done here, I'm going to a polishing tape, do a pull stroke and a pull stroke, kind of like a honing or stropping action, like just to kind of frame the idea here. And now I'm going up to polishing tape. So those polishing tapes run dry, so I'm going to be deliberate here at drying off the Edge Pro before I put and I'm a fan of that 6000 grit polishing tape. They have a few others, but the 6000 is, I call it the Facebook finish. Actually, what I want to get into really is just about this part. That knife will cut real nice right now. Super nice, but I hope you'll be able to see when I do this 6000 grit polishing tape, the mirror finish. Yeah, no pressure, right? Like only the weight of the tape, only pull strokes to get started. I was wiggling my hand there to show you, like, I'm not pushing down at all. Look at the way I'm holding the stone arm. There's no downward pressure, just the weight. And what you'll find, like, if you don't do that, you're going to tear up your tapes. and you still get a real nice finish just by the weight of the tape. And then so it's just back and forth, right? Like you're doing just this real fine polishing action. That's it. I think I said it, like that's the Facebook finish in my opinion, right? No pressure, no pressure. Pull stroke, pull stroke, pull stroke around the whole length of the blade, and then some back and forth action. Still no pressure, no downward pressure. Polishing that bevel. What I have found, and for me, is that when I go from the 4,000 grit stone to the 6,000 grit tape, my cutting performance goes down. Now it comes off that tape looking like dynamite, but when I do like my real fine cut test, I'm like, oh, like it's not as good. So this is why I introduced the Kangaroo Strop with CBN emulsion at 0.5 micron into my plan, because now I have that beautiful finish. I don't want to go back and put a 4,000 grit stone on it. So I wanted the next thing so that I could restore, get both that beautiful mirror. Look at that thing. Oh, like that's what I'm talking about. That's beautiful. Oh man, right? But it's still got to cut good. And like, so now, or not cut good, it needs to cut awesome. All right, so the thing with the strop, again, no pressure. Do not push, right? Like, just like you would if it were on the table. Like you have to be present in mind here so that you pick the strop up off the blade when you go in, and you only pull. Real careful of the tip. All right, like don't lose focus here. Set it down, pull only. It's hard to tell in the video. I'm taking that right off of the blade when I go back in. It is totally coming off. Doesn't look like much from this perspective, but it's enough. Like I'm only touching in that stroke. Do that a few, so I just did that side a little bit, both sides. Now I'm just gonna kind of just do a little bit of stropping action on each. Okay, and now that is a blazing sharp Sebenza. See if I can get it for you. That's pretty good. When you start doing this stuff, you realize like just how much, like it could have been better, but like look at that reflection in that. That's fantastic. All right, I like how that came out. I think I do have a cut test for you coming up here. Now we'll take this off. See how that tape just peels off, no residue? Sometimes, like just based on from the sharpening process, there is a little line down where the tape interface towards the edge, and that's because of the the swarf and everything. Like I try to be good about cleaning it all off, but still might leave a little mark. So what I can do is what I will do at the very end, I'm going to do a cut test, but I'm also going to put a real light coat of Subaki oil on here. And that I found that it actually does clean a little bit, but it definitely gives the surface a nice finish. I'm just enamored by it, so I'm checking it out. And then we have the cut test coming up here. Just a thin, like newspaper. That's so good. All right, so what I did there is just shaved a little doily. You see that little doily? Let me see if I can get you a better look at that little doily. Yeah, see a little doily? It's wicked sharp. Actually, when I was as I was finishing up this blade, as I closed it, I just barely nicked my hand, and it bled a little bit more than I was expecting it would. It's definitely sharp. All right, so I mentioned the Subaki oil to close it up. I think that is it for this process. Thanks so much for staying through, and I hope you found that. Actually, you know what? I think I brought the Subaki oil over here. So since I'm doing this, we'll just, so I have my Subaki oil in a little dropper. And I brought a paper towel. So I'm just going to put just a little drop on there. And then, oh no, do I not show you? I did it off camera. All right, my bad. Little drop over here. I'm just taking the paper towel, kind of, you know, massaging that oil in. And then I'm doing it this way with the blade pointed away from the hand that I'm using to rub it in. And then I'll just take a clean spot on my paper towel and wipe it off. So sorry for not doing that over or under the camera. That's my bad. Oh, there we go. Now I figure it out. And then just wipe it off. That's it. Like, you don't need to leave any on there. See if you can get it all off. There's still going to be a thin coat of oil. And that is it. Sharpening a Sebenza on the Edge Pro, finishing with a kangaroo hide strop and a 0.5 micron CBN emulsion. Yo, hat tip if you made it this far. That was long, but I hope it's good. I hope you grabbed something out of it and you can take that to your shop. Please, before you go, if you made it this far, please hit the thumbs up and subscribe. Remember to go check out the Guild of Professional Sharpeners at guildofsharpeners.org. And hit the bell so that you get notified by YouTube when I come back to you next Thursday night. Oh, and for the giveaway, make sure you go into the description and enter to win the kangaroo hide and CBN emulsion. So thank you again, and until next Thursday night.